Here's a ridiculously beautiful song from Hoagy Carmichael, author of some of the real classics of the Great American Songbook, of course, including Georgia on My Mind, which I've also covered in the Willie Nelson version. This one was written in 1928 with lyrics by Mitchell Parish. It's quite difficult to sing. It's actually quite difficult to play, but we'll make it work. The Willie Nelson version does a very good job of wrangling the vagaries of these fairly sophisticated chord shapes onto a single guitar. Although, if you listen, if I'm right, he's overdubbing his guitar trigger at least once. So we've got the intro figure that I've just played you, and he has himself then playing another part. So I'm not going to be able to give you, at least not in a single part, exactly what he plays. And of course there's all sorts of other stuff going on, bass and drums, there's an organ and so on. But I've tried to amalgamate all that to give it a kind of standalone version that you can easily play on a single acoustic guitar. The structure, at least the part of it that Willie plays, because there's an extended intro that he avoids, and then he replaces that with a little 4-bar intro that I've just given you. Beyond that, there's a single verse, 2 lots of 16 bars. He plays that all the way through once, and then he repeats the second half of the verse another couple of times, each time opening up the first half with a little guitar solo. So it's quite a simple thing, really, in terms of the structure. Let's just get on and start fleshing out. And we could start, actually, with the intro that you just heard. Now, we begin with A minor for a couple of bars, and I'm doing this. I'm going to bar it across the 5th fret, or just on the top 3 or 4 strings, I should say, and I've got a finger up here on the 7th fret of the 4th string. 2 beats of that, then I'm going to let that finger drop a fret and replace it with my 2nd finger, then just the bar of the 1st finger. So that's A minor major 7, or A minor over G sharp, and A minor 7 or A minor over G, and now that note moves down to an F sharp, and that's as part of this. This is an F sharp diminished. Really, I want D7 flat 9, of which F sharp diminished is a part, but I don't want to move my bass down there, so I'm just going to let that single note go down there. We won't miss the D too much. And what I'm doing in the picking straight away, and I'll do a bit of this in the main song, I'm playing the lowest note with my thumb, then the next note I want to play with my 1st finger, and then the 2nd and 3rd fingers are going to pick the remaining 2 strings. And finally, I'm going to come back to the string that I'm picking with my 1st finger. So thumb, 1, 2 and 3, and back to 1 again. You'll see if you watch my videos at all, whenever there's a ballad, I generally revert to this kind of thing. Okay, that's the first 2 bars, and we finish off with a G major 7. And this looks like an A minor shape starting up on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and I've got my 1st finger down on the 3rd fret of the bottom string. That's my G major 7. And now my thumb obviously is moving down to the 6th string, and the picking fingers are on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th strings. I'm now going to move the whole thing up to the 8th fret for a C major 7. This is a really versatile shape, you can play it any way you like, but we've got 2 beats of G major 7 up to C major 7. And now I'm going to play another version of G major 7. Again, this is another major 7 shape. And if you're learning some basic jazz chord shapes for the first time, it really does pay to have one version with a bass note on the 6th string and one with a bass note on the 5th string. And that's what I've got here. So that's the same chord type, effectively, but now I'm playing it all the way up here. You could bar that if you like, but I'm just going to use my 1st finger there on the 10th fret of the 5th string. So the whole of the intro. Okay. Now, as we move into the verse, some of these chord shapes are a bit devious, but for me, really it's pitching the melody note. If you're singing this is what I find tricky. So maybe use as much as you can the chord shapes and find the particular voice in the chord shape to give you the note you need. Whichever of the G major 7 shapes you ended the intro with, this one or this one, there's an F sharp here, 4th fret of the 4th string, or an octave higher, 11th fret of the 3rd string. Sometimes I wonder. And we begin with this, C6. If this is a shape that's unfamiliar to you, maybe it's worth getting your 1st and 2nd fingers in position first. My 1st finger is up here on the 7th fret of the 4th string, 2nd finger on the 8th fret of the 6th string. On the same fret, my 3rd finger is on the 2nd string, and then following up with my little finger on the 9th fret of the 3rd string. There's an E there. And most of these shapes, as you'll see, just use 4 strings because I've got my thumb playing the bass note and then these 3 picking fingers together. Now the picking fingers are on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th strings, and that thumb is obviously down on the 6th string. So we play 2 bars of this. Sometimes I wonder why I spend lonely. And we end up on this note, which is the B. Nice. You kind of have to hear that because it's not part of the chord. And then we move on to this chord, F9. Nice. And we carry on singing that B. So that's a bit of a challenge. This is my F9 here, 1st finger on the 7th fret of the 4th string, and well, you can see 2nd, 3rd and 4th fingers are on the 8th frets of the 5th, 3rd and 2nd strings. But there's that note there, nice. You really want to hit that. And it's quite tricky to play all that with that B at the top. So you could maybe play across the chord and then move that 1st finger up to catch that note on the top string on the 7th fret. And if you, you could actually bar across and play them all. I have to say that's quite tricky. On an electric guitar, it wouldn't be such an issue, but you just need a bit of oomph to get that. Anyway, those first 4 bars, because I've got 2 bars of each shape. Sometimes I wonder why I spend the lonely nights dreaming of a song, the melody. That's now a G major 7 for a single bar. And we move up to this. This is a really common and very versatile jazz shape. B minor 7 here. Of course, you could play it anywhere you like, and we are going to see this in a few different places. And then later on, we're going to see a variation of this where we play not a minor 7, but a minor 6. But for now, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the bottom string, and my 3rd finger is just barring across the 7th fret of the 2nd, 3rd and 4th strings. Get a bar of that, and then we go down to A minor 7, the same shape. And actually, what I'm going to do there is just move it down smoothly via B flat minor 7. You don't have to do that. Melody haunts my reverie. I am once again with you. So what we've got here is our A minor 7, which is the same as that minor 7 shape we've moved down. I'm going to E7, which, if you know your C7, just move that up until your 1st finger's on the 5th fret of the 2nd string, and then back to my A minor again. Melody haunts my reverie, and I am once again with you. I'm going to use the same shape as I used for the E7 down here. When our love was new for D7, I've got a bar and a half of D7. And each kiss. Now I've got this. It's based on the same sort of C shape. I'm going to bar across at least the 2nd and 3rd strings at the 3rd fret, leaving these 2 2nd and 3rd fingers where they were. And each kiss an inspiration. Okay, so there's quite a lot to get through there, but really it's getting from one chord to the next rather than the chords themselves. Now, we've got our B again, but that was long ago. That's tricky. But if you play this is A13. Okay, this is a handful. First finger on the bottom string, 5th fret. Second finger on the 5th fret of the 4th string. Now my third finger is going to pick up the 6th fret of the 3rd string, and my little finger, bless it, is going to play across the top 2 strings barred at the 7th fret. But that, and you can hear there's that B at the top, and it's a 13. The B would be the 9. You don't need that, you know, if you're a strong singer, and you don't need to pitch that note, but I find that really helps. That was long ago. Now my consolation is in there. We've got our D7 again. 2 beats of D7, and we're going to go up after 2 beats, just a fret to E flat 7, and then back again. But that was long ago. Now my consolation is in the stardust of a song. It's weird because the E flat 7, stardust, 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 the 2 melody notes, E and A, really don't go well with that chord. But in the stardust of a song. So that's the whole of the first half. So why don't we have a little playthrough of that? Sometimes I wonder why I spend a lonely night dreaming of a song. The melody haunts my reverie, and I am once again with you. When our love was new, and each kiss an inspiration. But that was long ago. Now my consolation is in the stardust of a song. Okay, nailed it. The second half starts exactly the same way, but then there's a little difference. I'm going to swig a tea to get through this. The melody starts the same way. Besides a B to A, we have our C6. Beside a garden wall, when stars are bright. There's that chord I've barred all the way across. You are in my arms. The nightingale. Back to G major 7. So far it's the same. But instead of going to B minor 7, we now go to E9. Okay? That's not so tricky. Nightingale tells his fairy tale. And again, A minor 7 of paradise to E7, where roses grew. And now it's new stuff. Now we've got, and this shape that we had before, B minor 7, if you move it up a fret there onto the 8th fret to make C minor 7, what I'm going to do actually is put a finger on the 7th fret of the 4th string and move my little bar with the 3rd finger that was barring across the 2nd, 3rd and 4th. It's now only going to be across the 2nd and 3rd, so we can hear that note there. That's C minor 6. Though I dream in vain, that's the melody, dream in vain, for a bar and then F9. In my heart it will remain. And now there's nothing new really. We've got our C minor 6 to F9. In my G major 7, heart it will remain. Bar of A minor 7, my stardust melody to D7, or D9 if you like, the memory of love's refrain. Back to G major 7, I'm going to go up to my C minor 6, and I'm going to finish up here on my G major 7. In fact, that's everything there is. What happens now is, in the Willie Nelson version, he goes back just to the second half, ba-da-ba-doodle-doo, and plays through again. The first 8 bars of that are covered by a guitar solo, and then he picks up Though I dream in vain. The C minor 6, he comes in again there singing, and then he does the whole thing again, that is to say just the second half again. You'll see when we have a playthrough, which we're going to do now. Okay, thanks for watching, and hopefully see you on the next one. 1, 2, 3. Sometimes I wonder why I spend lonely night dreaming of a song, the melody haunts my reverie. I'm once again with you. When our love was new, and each kiss an inspiration. But that was long ago. Now my consolation is in the stardust of a song beside wall. Stars are bright. You are in my dreams. The nightingale tells his fairy tale of paradise where roses grew. Though I dream in vain, my heart it will remain, my stardust melody, the memory of love's refrain. Dream in vain, in my heart it will remain, my stardust melody, the memory of love's refrain. Though I dream in vain, in my heart it will remain, my stardust melody, the memory of love's refrain. And that's it.